afternoon. This is Ethan Allen here, host of Likeable Science here on ThinkTech Hawaii, and welcome you back to another episode of Likeable Science. We try to present good, interesting materials here that help you understand that science is a vital and interesting part of everyone's life all the time, day in and day out, and it's not something to be scared of or to shy away from. Today we have our guest is joining us via Skype from Chicago, Shivang Dave. He's a bioengineer and nanotechnologist passionately involved in global health, as he described himself. Welcome, Shivang.
Hi, Ethan. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for making time in your busy schedule to join us. Shivang is the CEO and co-founder of a group called PlenOptika, and we're going to just jump right in and hear of all the exciting stuff that PlenOptika does. And basically, PlenOptika is serving, as I looked at your materials there, I saw it's serving the needs of 1 billion people, basically.
That's what we hope to do. Right now, there are more than 1 billion people worldwide who don't have eyeglasses, and you might think that it's because glasses are too affordable, but one of the main barriers of why people don't have glasses is just there's not enough optometrists to give them prescriptions, and many of these people happen to be in developing countries in low-resource settings. And so what PlenOptika has set about to do is to develop a technology, which we call the QuickSee, which will help optometrists and eye care organizations to provide prescriptions more efficiently and to really be mobile and reach the people who need it where they need the help, and basically help this infrastructure that's limited expand and become more efficient.
Yeah, because we have, as your graph there shows at the bottom, we are well endowed with optometrists in this country, but in developing countries, they are a rare species indeed, and so people have much harder times accessing them.
Right.
And guys are there are less overwhelmed, and they also typically don't have the equipment, and they don't have access to the sophisticated tools. So.
Right. So they often, if you're in an optometry clinic in the middle of a big city, the optometrist is going to have all the modern automated tools. But when they go to do an outreach camp or a screening camp, kind of like in a rural area, they can't take all that automated equipment with them. It's too big and bulky. It's just too hard to move. So they go back to relying on the manual techniques, which works, but it just ends up being slower. And so they end up not having the impact that they would want, ideally, in those settings where the impact is needed. And that's what we're trying to develop, is that automated technology.
Yeah, it's great that you recognize this need, because we sometimes, we get so spoiled in this country. We complain about our healthcare system here, but we have a tremendous healthcare system. We have such incredibly easy access. A year ago, I went actually and had I had strabismus surgery, had both my eyes operated on and straightened out a little bit because they both turned in. And just, I didn't think too much of it. It was quick and easy, no fuss, no muss, easy enough to schedule, and boom, But can't do that in India, right?
And actually it's surprising. One thing in our learning, I guess our reading into this problem and really talking to people, is we started to learn that access to eye care is sometimes challenging, even in the U.S. for a lot of people. We found that I think it's something like only 50 or 40% of U.S. adults have vision coverage as part of their insurance.
Wow. Or
it's something low. I don't remember the exact number. And even people who do have that insurance are sometimes too busy to actually use it. And so the American Optometric Association put out a report in 2013 that showed that it seemed that people who had the insurance only really came in for a checkup once every 25 months instead of once every 12 months like they're supposed to. So even when they had the access to the resource, they weren't using it as much as they should. So it's starting to become, I think it's, we're very busy and there's a lot of inconvenience. And so it was just surprising to learn that things are not as perfect over here as we thought as well,
Yeah.
But it's much worse over there.
Yeah. I'm sure many, many, many more challenges. So tell us a little more about this. That is, there are basically several sets of tools. It seems like you sort of combined here in this QuickSee device, right?
Yes. So what I guess I'll take a step back. The way we decided to develop the QuickSee first was, typically scientists and engineers like to just go build something and then try to find a problem that it solves, or build the hammer and then figure out what to hit with the hammer. And this is a very typical kind of behavior. And we were actually in a program called the Madrid MIT Envision program, which is a program funded by the government of Madrid that funded us to be fellows at MIT and to try to address large-scale unmet medical needs, basically big problems that were just not being solved. And instead of first designing technology, we were challenged to really understand the clinical barriers to the problem, to identify the problem, to understand the clinical barriers, the business barriers, the legal barriers, the technological barriers. And only after we really thoroughly understood the whole ecosystem of why this problem exists to develop something to address it, you know?
Yeah, and you've got amazing background to do this work. It's you sort of seem like you've been preparing for this all your life. I didn't say this at the start, but Shivang has a bachelor's and doctorate in bioengineering, the former from UC Berkeley and the latter from UW Seattle. He's won various awards. He's for co-developing commercial strategies for drug-eluting intraocular lenses to reduce post-surgery infection. And he's been through various technology development commercialization programs, Foster School of Business, I think, at UW.
Yeah, yep.
So, and won the College of Engineering Dean's Award or something there.
Right.
So yeah, you know, it seems like you're doing exactly what you're trained for.
Right.
You know? So
right. Yeah, and so let me give kind of the audience a bit of background of how we actually decided what features this technology had to have for it to be successful, right? And so, if you like, you can jump to slide 5, and then we'll go to 5, 6, and 7. And in slide 5, what we're basically showing is just there are these long lines and inefficiencies in eye care in low resource settings because they don't have the automated tools. They end up doing manual approaches to testing vision and screening vision, which you kind of see in the smaller pictures. And on slide 6, we're kind of showing a typical technology called an autorefractor, which is used in these clinics and doctor's offices, which is used to estimate your eyeglass prescription, help that doctor with the starting point so they can do that whole subjective part much quicker. The subjective part of the exams, when they ask you which is better, 1 or 2, and they ask you to flip through a bunch of lenses, right? They need a starting point, and so this device gives them a starting point, but it's just too big and costly to take in a backpack, right?
Right.
And so what we did is we started reading the literature. We started talking to optometrists and ophthalmologists. We started talking to NGOs that work to do eye care in India. Talked to large eye hospitals in India to really understand what do they need to become more efficient. And they said, hey, we need an autorefractor, but we need a lower cost autorefractor. We need a faster autorefractor. We need a portable autorefractor. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we're showing on slide 7 is that, there was these constraints we ended up learning that we needed to address for the technology to be useful to the target customer, and it had to be affordable, had to be fast, it had to be easy to use, They wanted it so that a technician could use it without much training, and that it was not scary for the patients. And so that's why you have these circles, and there was no kind of technology that combined all 3 of those attributes, and that's what we ended up trying to design and attack.
So let me just jump in here, just because you got a little technical language on this
Sure.
slide. A retinoscope presumably is meant to look at the retina. The refractometer would be measuring sort of the amount of refraction that your lens is putting on or missing. But the wavefront aberrometer is probably the one that I suspect many in the audience probably have less familiarity with.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, I should have explained that. So let me explain all 3. So retinoscope is actually, it's like a flashlight that a doctor uses to shine light into your eyes. And then they make you wear those small pair of glasses and they put lenses in. And they look how that light, when they shine it in your eye, how that light moves. And from that, they can kind of determine what your prescription is. So it's a manual way to determine your prescription.
Okay.
The autorefractor is an automatic way to estimate your prescription. You basically stick your face into that device and they take a snapshot and then boom, it gives them an estimate of your eyeglass prescription. Mm-hmm. From that estimate, they'd use the retinoscope and then to refine it and get the final prescription. And a wavefront aberrometer is a completely different beast. It's actually, the reason the audience will know it is it's used in LASIK surgery. It's kind of used to really map out the eye and the different defects of the eye so that LASIK can correct it. These things are really expensive. These things are like, $30,000, $40,000. They're big devices, but they're very accurate and they're very fast. And so those are the three kind of devices, and we wanted to get into that sweet spot in the intersection of those three circles.
Right, right. So and so you have this interesting background in engineering, nanotechnology, and presumably you have talented partners too. I assume you didn't do this single-handedly.
Actually, let me give them a shout out first. If we go to slide 12, this is the fantastic team. These are the 4 co-founders, and actually, the guy in the middle named Daryl and Nicholas on the edge are the 2 optical engineers. They're the guys who have optics PhDs who actually came up with the idea. Eduardo is a PhD in electronics and has done all the guts and bolts of this, in terms of software and electronics and mechanical design. And I'm actually, even though I have a PhD, I've done the least amount of technical work on this. I've kind of came in with more experience on the global health and entrepreneurship side of this project and helped do those aspects of the project. So I think that it kind of goes to show that, to build a cool technology, you need to have a multifaceted team. Absolutely. And everyone, and it's just like a sports team where, you have the quarterback, you have a running back, you have defensive linemen and offensive linemen. Everyone's got a different role, but they're all needed. And sometimes one person is more important than the others, and then changes in time,
Yeah, different strengths, different talents for different aspects of what the company needs. Excellent.
Right. And so together we came up with what's on slide 8, which is the technology which we call the QuickSee. It's a portable, it's a thing that looks like a pair of binoculars from Star Trek. is how we describe it. And what it does is it does the same thing as an autorefractor does. It estimates your eyeglass prescription really well, and so it's small like binoculars, so it's portable, it's handheld. You can see the guys holding it with one hand. It's low cost. We've designed it to meet the prices that are needed by optometrists and NGOs that work in these low resource settings. They don't have $20,000 to buy one piece of equipment, so we had to make something that fits their budget. And so we had to go do a lot of understanding of what their budgets were, and how do they pay for these things. And we actually developed more advanced kind of algorithms and hardware to make the device more accurate than your standard autorefractor. And then we did we've tested this on about 700 people in 3 different studies. And what we've done, and this is actually shown in slide 9, is like throughout the different studies we've done at these different institutes, we have iterated our design and made it more and more easy to use and more accurate. And so that was the last bit of it, is you have to test what you make, and you have to reiterate and then try, fail, test again.
Absolutely, yeah. You never can get it on the first try.
Exactly.
Hey, this is excellent. We are going to have to go to a quick break here, but we're going to come back after a minute. I have via Skype here Dr. Shivang Dave from PlenOptika, and I'm Ethan Allen, your host here on Likeable Science. We'll be right back.
Aloha, welcome to ThinkTech Hawaii. My name is Josh Green. I'm the host of a program called Healthcare in Hawaii. I'm a physician. I work in the emergency department on the Big Island. I also serve in the state senate, which, please don't hold that against me, doesn't detract from my television program. We speak about all the big healthcare issues in the state. We get together on Tuesdays from 2 o'clock till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we try to talk about the most important issues in healthcare. This is a terrific venue for people to learn about healthcare. There are many programs on this station. We broadcast it later, not just on the internet, but also on OC16. Thanks for joining us. Please be informed healthcare consumers.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage here on ThinkTech Hawaii. I hope that you will tune in and watch the show. It is inspiring and uplifting and educational also. We talk with artists of all different ilk. We talk with them about what they do, how they do it, and most importantly, most dear to my heart, why they do it. And it never ceases.
Okay, hey, and you're back here on Likeable Science. I'm your host, Ethan Allen, here on ThinkTech Hawaii. We're talking today about meeting the needs, vision correction needs of people, particularly in developing countries. I have with me via Skype, coming from Chicago, Dr. Shivang Dave of PlenOptika. And we were just discussing this really amazing device he's developed called QuickSee. He, I guess some his colleagues developed, that really finds, as he put it, in the sweet spot between the retinoscope, which is very basic instrumentation to find vision problems, and various automated devices which are big and bulky and not portable, and instead they sort of took the best of all the worlds and built this small portable device called QuickSee that enables optometrists in developing situations to very rapidly, very easily get the prescription needs for large numbers of patients quite quickly. So that's intriguing, and you talked a little bit about starting to test this out, and it looks like you've tested it maybe in a variety of different settings.
Yeah. So yeah, we're kind of showing this in slide 10. Is just we ended up to start our project off. We traveled to India and tried to meet the people who are experts in this, like the eye hospitals that have led the charge to address eye care problems in the resource settings. And one of the great names in this field is Arvind Eye Hospital, which is pictured in the upper left. Is the upper left picture. And we were fortunate enough to meet with them and learn from them, be invited into their hospital and their vision clinics to understand the problems they face, the way they solve them, what technologies they need. And then so we started doing pilots with them. We started doing pilots with other companies, like in the upper right-hand corner, where they're building their own optical stores and training their own technicians to provide care in these really rural villages where there was never an optical store to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
We did them in the bottom left and right in more remote settings like vision clinics, which are run by hospitals or NGOs. This picture on the bottom right, we didn't actually test in a slum. That's actually a dummy device that the person's holding. But we went with an NGO that was working in one of the biggest slums in one of the big cities of India, and kind of took around our prototype device. Said, "Hey, would this help you reach your patients?" And they said yes, because a lot of their patients weren't coming into the vision clinic that's on the bottom left. Mm-hmm. This optometrist was like, it'd be good for me to be able to take a tool and go to them at their home and have something that's portable, fits in my backpack. And so we started doing, hey, how would the device need to work for, what would it need to look like and feel like for it to be useful for you? And so that's kind of what you're seeing there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it really speaks to this whole issue that I run into in a sort of parallel thing in my own work. You've got to meet the needs of the community that you're serving.
Yeah.
You cannot bring in a solution from the outside that's just a solution you've thought of sitting quietly at your desk and expect that it's going to meet any of the needs that the people living in the situation actually have.
Yeah, in global health and kind of even in economics, they call this the difference between like top-down solutions versus bottom-up solutions, and they're finding there's a lot of data showing that solutions and approaches to healthcare or education or whatever, when they are developed with the people who you're trying to help, you end up making longer-term, more scalable, sustainable solutions that just end up being more impactful. Because when we were based in Cambridge, we can do all the reading we want about rural India, but that's not the same as actually going there, seeing there, and talking to people who deal with the small things you would never think about.
Exactly. So this is actually a perfect point. I want to take out a few moments and talk about another technology just for a moment or two here. About a year ago, I had a guest on the show, Dr. James Smith from the University of Virginia, who was talking about a product that he was developing, and he was testing it in Africa, called Maddie Drops. And these are porous ceramic tablets that are infused with silver. Can be dropped into a carboy or a container of water, and in a few hours, the water then is infused with silver ions. Silver ions are highly toxic to bacteria, viruses, fungi, protists, all the little microbes that can really make us sick. And at relatively modest concentrations of silver ions, these things are promptly killed off. And since those kinds of bacterial problems are the big sort of plague of a lot of the Pacific Islanders in terms of the water supplies that they have, this is a tremendously valuable tool. Just literally earlier this week, I found out these things now actually are available and being produced in large enough numbers to be that he can actually produce them and send them out to me. So I've actually just sent sets off to my work sites in Palau, Chukiap, and the Marshall Islands, all of which are in the middle of severe drought right now, which means the people are probably drinking almost any water they can find, basically, which is probably contaminated water. And so this is extremely timely. But again, it was a technology that was developed and tested in communities to find out, is this really going to address your problems? Is it going to help you? Is it going to answer your needs? And it did so. So anyhow, back to you.
Actually, when we were in the big hospital, we were working with these nurses, and they gave us, we'd brainstorm, we'd just say, here's this technology. If we haven't even developed it yet, what if we could develop it, what would you do with it? And they came up with ideas we had never thought about. They're like, this is how I'd use it, and this is how it would make my life easier so I could see more patients. And it was like, whoa, that's such a simple idea, but we never thought about it. And it was just, it was really cool to work with the people who actually do the work and have the experience to give you insight that you just don't have when you're halfway around the world,
Yeah, and that's what your QuickSee impact slide talks a little bit about here is changing from that manual approach to using auto-refraction to get better efficiency, and then making it portable and rugged so you can really get around and get it out to reach large numbers of people some of whom aren't going to come into the clinics.
Exactly.
So that's again, that sounds like you were guided in doing some very careful research to make sure that your development was well matched to the needs of the communities that you were serving.
Right.
That's absolutely super. That's a great lesson in terms of how a product should be developed.
And I'll say something just to be completely fair and transparent is, we don't have our product out on the market yet. We still have research prototypes, so we're still testing all these hypotheses and these modes of action. And that's why this graph with the little people, green people being someone who's gotten seen and red person being someone who hasn't gotten seen yet, is all qualitative. We don't actually know how much improvement we're going to have on the efficiency. We're very confident we are going to improve the situation, and but these are things that it's not only the first step is to understand the problem and work with people to develop a solution, but then you need to go take that solution and actually test it rigorously and challenge your assumptions all over again and really understand how much improvement have you really made, how much impact have you made, can you quantify that?
Right, so you may think that is if it takes, I don't know how long does it take somebody to do a typical manual retinoscopic exam?
Probably 5 to 10 minutes, depending how severe the problem is for the patient.
Right, and your QuickSee prototype can do it in?
So we can estimate the prescription in about 30 seconds, and then the person, the technician would maybe, instead of spending 5-10 minutes per exam, might spend 3 to 5 minutes per exam. Might double their throughput because they have a better starting point now. Maybe it improves it even more than that. But, we really want to rigorously test that so that we can really know.
Yeah, but it's nice. Even your sort of back-of-the-envelope calculation suggests that you're going to get a great improvement in efficiency, and be interesting to see how much.
Right.
Now, obviously, PlenOptika didn't just spring full-blown into the world as a company, right? You had various partnerships, and the different groups have helped along the way.
Right. So yeah, I'd love to kind of give some promotion for them. I mean, we've been really fortunate when we've traveled to India, we reached out to 2 very large legends, to say the least, in global health. Them being Arvind Eye Hospital and Oral Lab, which is the sister organization to Arvind Eye Hospital. Arvind Eye Hospital is just really famous. They really revolutionized cataract surgery in global health settings and made it much more efficient. They made the outcomes better than outcomes you have in like the US or the UK. They reduced the cost of the surgery. Their doctors see maybe 10 times more patients per day and per year than an ophthalmologist here in the US. And so they're just a fantastic organization. And then they spun out a company, another nonprofit called Oral Lab, which basically makes medical products for them and for other global health organizations. And both have been partnered with PlenOptika through a funding source, which was the U.S. Indo Science Technology Endowment Fund, which is a cool, it's an agreement between the U.S. government and the Indian government to help fund companies on both sides to work together to translate technology to make impact in healthcare and or in environmental. And so we were fortunate to get that funding and to partner with these organizations, and they've been helping us clinically test the device and actually develop the device and manufacture the device. So it's just been, we've been very fortunate. And if we didn't have them, we would probably eventually get to a product, but it would have been much slower and much harder,
Yeah, it sounds sort of like a very oddly parallel to your key management team that you're talking about with different partners with different strengths, different abilities, able to play different roles, and
right.
all necessary to have a good product that really is sort of on track and on target.
Right.
Excellent. And you've gotten some recognition along the way for this work. I know you've won some competitions and awards. And you've gotten funded by quite a different and published in different groups, different publications, and gotten some good press too.
Yeah, let me, I guess, speak just a little about this. It's it's kind of like a snowball and an avalanche. Like, it's really important to you talk to your partners and you start developing technology, but then you got to start pitching it and seeing. Do people buy it? Do people fund it? Can you enter into a business plan competition, see if you have a sustainable business model and a scalable model? And you might not even win first place, but you learn a lot of experience, and then that you take to the next, you just keep growing and snowballing. And then that's what we've kind of done is we have been in a lot of these competitions. We haven't won all of them, but we've participated. We've done very well in them. We've gotten some prizes along the way, which we're very thankful for. We're right now in the Social Innovation Forum Accelerator, which is awesome. We're right now in an incubator at Harvard called the Harvard Innovation Launch Lab. But all these things came now at the end of a 4-year journey where we first started just with one competition, then became another, and snowballed up. And then similarly, as you get more and more credibility and develop your business further, or at least your sense of your business, you do the same thing with your science, and you start applying for funding, you start publishing one paper, you publish the next paper, you start presenting at conferences, right? But it all starts with a small snowball, and then you just keep grinding away at it, and eventually you get an avalanche. So it didn't come as one great victory. It was just a lot of hard work by our whole team and our partners, and over a long period of time to get it to happen.
Yeah, I hear you on that, and again, I see parallels to my own work, doing one project at a time. But we're gonna look into sort of your journey there a little more in detail when we come back. But we're gonna take another break right now. Again, Dr. Shivang Dave from PlenOptika. And I'm your host, Ethan Allen, here on Likeable Science on ThinkTech Hawaii. We'll be back after the break.
Aloha, my name is Justina Spiritu, and I'm the co-host of Hawaii Farmers Series. This is my co-host, Matthew Johnson, and you can catch us every Thursday at 4 p.m. at thinktechhawaii.com. What do we talk about, Matt?
So on Hawaii Farmers Series, we're going to be bringing on the farmers and also supporter of farmers, including restaurants, caterers, as well as government supporters and nonprofits, to hear their background stories and understanding our local ag community just a little bit better.
Yeah, essentially there's a lot more that goes into farming and the local food community beyond just producing the food. And we want to feature and get the background story on all these folks and see how we all work together as a community. So join us every Thursday. Aloha.
And you're back here on Likeable Science. I'm your host, Ethan Allen, here on ThinkTech Hawaii. We're talking about eye care, vision care today. We have with us, coming from Chicago via Skype, Dr. Shivang Dave. Welcome again, Shivang.
Hi.
And he represents PlenOptika. He's the co-founder, CEO of PlenOptika, and has developed at least to a good working prototype stage, a device called QuickSee that really addresses a lot of the needs of optometrists in developing countries, can quickly and efficiently measure eye aberrations, eye problems, and develop the prescription that people need for it. Light, rugged, portable, inexpensive. So it sounds like it's really well tuned into the needs of the communities that he's serving, and it's a vast population out there who don't have very good access to eye care. So it seems like sort of an odd journey, Shivang.
Yeah.
That took you. I mean, when I knew Shivang, he was working in a lab, doing all sorts of interesting stuff in nanotechnology. And so maybe tell us a little bit more about this sort of intriguing path that took you to where you are now.
Yeah, my life has been taken a very interesting path. I'll start with the picture in the center, which is a picture of my grandfather, one of my grandfathers, and me when I had much more hair than I have right now, as you can see. And I was fortunate to be born in the States, but my parents always took me back to India to visit our relatives and see how life was. And I saw a lot of poverty. I saw a lot of healthcare disparity, economic disparity from an early age. And, I saw even health problems within my own family. One of my grandfathers was blind, the other was paralyzed, and that always had an impact on me. So from an early age, I kind of knew I wanted to work in healthcare. And, you kind of grow up thinking, the way you do that is being a doctor, right? And so the question was, I kind of always had this question from a very early age, how do I have an impact in health and poverty? And so when I was in high school, I was again fortunate that there was an international baccalaureate high school near me. It's a public school, one of the top schools in California, near Loma High School, for any alums who are watching, my alma mater, and very proud to have been there. And it was a great training because they got us to think about a lot of disciplines, not just science, but the humanities and arts, a lot of history, a lot of philosophy, anthropology. And so we started thinking about how a lot of things are mixed and interweaved together in society. And I started volunteering with the Red Cross, and because that seemed there was an opportunity, and it started moving more towards how does thinking medicine is the way you directly impact lives, right? So there's a picture of me, shadowing probably one of my cousins or something like that. And I went into Berkeley for undergrad thinking, I want to do medicine, kind of like a lot of undergrads who go to Berkeley. But I also had all this science training in engineering and physics that I loved, and I wanted to continue. So when I got to Berkeley, I immediately switched from a pre-med major to a newer major called bioengineering, which was like 3 years old at the time for undergrads. And it was a little undefined, but it was awesome because I got to just study so much science and engineering, but also how to apply it to healthcare problems, and I got to do research. And that really changed my life because then I started thinking, do I want to go into medicine or go into research? And the way I thought about it was, if you go into medicine, you help one person at a time, and then you see the next patient, you have an impact. It's kind of like serial, it's in sequence. And I started thinking, well, if I did research and I was successful, I came with an idea I could help more people. It's kind of more expansive. You publish an impactful paper, 10,000 people or 1,000 people might read it and get changed. And then what I started thinking was, okay, I don't want to go to med school, I want to go do research. And so I was also, in addition to doing bioengineering, I was doing chemistry at Berkeley, and I ended up finishing with a minor in chemistry, did a lot of synthetic work. And so I worked for a small pharmaceutical company called Celera. Celera is the company that actually sequenced the genome, and they had a small pharmaceutical branch that I was an intern for. And the reason that was really interesting is, part of impacting people is making a technology and then making a company to translate that technology to the world and actually build a product, right? And pharmaceutical drugs are one aspect of that.
Right.
One example of that. And so, but what I learned is innovation in big industry is hard.
Right.
Because I have I'm this undergrad, I'm head full of ideas and idealism and a lot more hair than I have now. And it's, hey, I want to go do stuff, but I'm working at this cool chemistry company. Why don't they let me do this, this, and this? And no, my job is to work on the products they want to build forward, right?
Right, there's a lot of inertia there, I'm sure.
Right, and so when I went to grad school at University of Washington, I did bioengineering in nanotechnology, and I was Professor Zhahu Gao's first student, and that was just a great learning experience because he's an excellent researcher and mentor, but also that experience of starting a new lab. And so while I was there, I was fortunate to get a National Science Foundation fellowship and gave me some flexibility. And I did a lot of outreach. That's actually how I interacted with you.
Right.
I did a lot of outreach to elementary school and high school kids. And while I was there, I started thinking, well, okay, so I know I want to do research, and research is important. And then I started realizing, well, when you just do research, you tend to just impact researchers and academics.
Right.
Right? The general population doesn't tend to read a science article. They don't even have access to those articles. You have to have a university library to have access. So I was like, I need to do some entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is how you take an idea and kind of bring it out and translate it out of the university. And I did a program called Program in Technology Commercialization from the Bioengineering Department, and the program in the Foster School of Business at UW called Technology Entrepreneurship Certificate. And what these were aimed at were teaching scientists and engineers who typically just did science and engineering to think about business and technology translation and commercialization. How do you take your ideas and bring them out to the world? And that's, this picture is us holding a large check for a small amount of money, but we won a prize in the business plan competition. That was my first business plan competition on this drug-eluting drug-eluting IOL. And back then is when I was proposing to work with Arvin Eye Hospital and Oral Lab. This is back in 2006. And after I finished my PhD, I went to this program, Envision, which I spoke about. And then out of Envision, we came up with the idea, and we ended up spinning out PlenOptika. And now, 10 years later, between when I started at University of Washington and when we started PlenOptika, I'm now actually working with Oral Lab and Arvin in real life. And so it's a funny, long, winding path, which started with wanting to help people, thinking as medicine, then thinking as research alone, then thinking as research plus entrepreneurship, global health, and coming full circle, and finally getting the opportunity to do it.
Wow, yeah, fascinating. And it's so, it's such a great model too, the idea of the sort of the multiple skills, the bioengineering and chemistry background, applying it to a clinical type situation, which I know there were actually some formal programs, I think, through chemical engineering at UW to do that, to have chemical engineers work in the hospital there. But then you had that extra twist of getting the business background and understanding that you really have to make this work in the real world. There has to be some money involved. So that's very impressive indeed. So yeah, and then this slide that has now popped up is showing you these, how did you start? What kinds of large-scale problems did you identify, and how were you matching them?
Right. Yeah. So this is actually this slide shows how the idea for PlenOptika started. Now, actually, I think it was Daryl or Nick who found this slide. So every couple of years, the World Health Organization publishes a database called Global Burden of Disease, and what they're studying is what diseases exist, how many people die or are affected by these different diseases, and so they always have like a top 10, top 30. And so in 2004, they showed refractive errors was number 14 on that list. But it was projected, as civilization kind of progresses, diseases, the importance of certain diseases change, right?
Right.
Like right now, diabetes it's become much bigger of a problem in the U.S. than communicable diseases are, right?
Sure.
And that's actually starting to change now in developing countries as well. And so what this global burden of disease list also looks at is they kind of project, well, how is the field going to look like down the line? So in 2030, they said, hey, refractive errors are actually going to be a top 10 cause of disability in the world. And it's like, whoa, wait, so it's going from 14 to 8. So that means it's becoming more prevalent, more important, more impactful. And you can see it's in the same grouping as HIV, AIDS, diabetes, cerebrovascular disease, traffic accidents. And so it's like, okay. And so that kind of told us that this is a big problem, and this is dealing with the eye. Let's look at it, right? And so this is kind of how we first understood that, hey, there's this thing called uncorrected refractive errors, which basically means your vision's not perfect, you need to correct your vision, and that many people have it. And then so this was where that aha moment came,
Excellent.
4 years ago. Yeah.
Excellent. So, tell me this, Shivang, if you had advice for students at this point who might want to, pursue some sort of course, because you've laid out an admirable course in a way, a very enviable life, where you've taken some long-standing ideals and ideas and combined them with new things you've learned, and have applied this all in a very synergistic way together. What would your advice for students be?
I have a couple pieces of advice. No matter what age you are, whether you're 6 years old or you're 60 years old, stay hungry and stay eager to learn. If you keep your mind open and keep learning, you can, something might seem hard at first, but if you kind of dedicated and principled about it, you can eventually kind of get insight and really understand it. So just stay curious, stay hungry, and you need to stay persistent. It's hard, and depending on where you are, sometimes you might be next to a great school, sometimes you might not be. Sometimes you might be have great teachers, sometimes you might not, or you might have a tough life or an easy life. But if you keep working hard and you kind of have this dedication to your vision, and you just keep staying curious and learning, there's so many resources now that the internet is kind of more widespread, and there's so many resources online, so many videos like this, right, that can... I used to watch something that came on Access Cable with my father, which was put out by Caltech, called Mechanical Universe.
Right.
As a kid, and it was about physics and advanced stuff that, as a 8-year-old, I wouldn't fully understand, but it got me excited about it, and then it just stayed, that passion stayed. So I guess I'm giving a kind of a windy answer, but to summarize, it's stay passionate, stay curious, stay dedicated, and one piece of advice one of the students gave me when I was at University of Washington and things were hard, he was a student, he said, this is a big university. If you keep your eyes open and look for opportunity, you'll be able to find it. If you keep your eyes closed and just kind of complain about your situation, you won't find the opportunity. Mm-hmm. I got that advice my first year, and it really changed my trajectory in grad school, and it's the same kind of applies here. If you might not hit a home run, but you'll get that first, get a base hit, bunt to get on base, and then steal second, and then someone will hit you home to third, and the snowball will start avalanching, and eventually you get these opportunities. 15 years ago, I started this whole process 20 years ago, and I finally am now at the place where I'm like, wow, I'm finally doing what I wanted to do 20 years ago.
Yeah, really, no, I hear you, and I totally agree that persistence is one of the real keys to it. The passion and curiosity and learning are the other big parts. But I absolutely know that. I received actually the same lessons in my graduate school too about persistence being the critical quality that'll get you through that situation. Well, excellent. This has been great, Shivang. It's really nice to reconnect with you, and excellent to learn about the PlenOptika and wonderful work you're doing. It's so critical, so important, and so many kudos to you for doing this, and have enjoyed this greatly, and look forward to hearing of your continued successes then.
Yeah.
So
thank you so much for inviting me, Ethan. I'm super happy we connected again, and happy to participate. And, I wish you and the program all the best, and I hope you continue just at UW, how you did at UW now, to keep inspiring and bringing people into the sciences and engineering, because I think they can have a lot of impact. And so keep persisting and expanding.
All right, well, right back at you then. Thanks a lot, Shivang, and aloha.
Thank you, Ethan. Bye-bye.
So we've had another episode here of Likeable Science then, and we'll see you folks next week. I'm your host, Ethan Allen. With me today in the studio, and coming via Skype, is Shivang Dave from PlenOptika. We'll see you next week.